name is Bill Uhlemeyer. I'm a former tail gunner with the 387th Bomb Group, 558th Bomb Squadron, stationed in France, and I entered service in April 7, 1943, went through basic training in Miami Beach, Florida, gunnery armor training at Lowry Field, Colorado, and then down to Fort Myers, Florida for gunnery training. And from there we went to Barksdale Field, Louisiana, where we first met the B-26. And our crew got together and did the staging there. And in August of 1944, we picked up a B-26 at Hunter Field and flew it across over the northern route through Bangor, Maine, Greenland, Iceland, Scotland, arriving there about the 13th of August. We then were assigned to the 387th Bomb Group, 558th Bomb Squadron, and met them just outside of Cherbourg in a small field in August. We actually flew 2 missions in the latter part of August, and I believe that was down to the Brest area. Flew another couple of missions into France, and that's when we discovered that anti-aircraft was not fun. From then on out, it was a steady run, and I flew 32 missions altogether. During the Battle of the Bulge, we were grounded most of the time, as most of them were, but got off the ground on the morning of the 23rd, and that was our big encounter with fighters, which we survived. Continuing on, we went through January, and on February 14th, 1945, we were going in on a bridge over Koblenz, or near Koblenz, Germany, and anti-aircraft had been built up there, so we were hit with 3 direct hits. During the course of this action, the radio man and myself, his tail gunner, got out of the plane, and the rest went down with the plane. After that, I was a prisoner of war until the latter part of April, when we were liberated out of Nuremberg, Germany. The only wound I received during the entire thing was from a bomb from an American fighter who thought we were German troops on the road. It was a slight leg wound. I was brought back into Paris Hospital and then returned to the United States. All in all, it was a very interesting time. We went through some cold, extremely cold times. We went through some nice warm times. Looking back on it, it was quite an experience. I think that's about all.
Okay, now you arrived in Europe in August 44?
Yes.
And joined the 387th in that month. As a replacement crew. I mean,
yes.
Were there other crews came in with you at the same time?
There were 3 other crews that came in with us at the time. Yeah. That we were.
What sort of impression do you have recollection do you have about the greeting you received from the group?
They were very glad to see us. In fact, they found out where we were. Somewhere along the line, the Army lost us in southern England. And when the group found out that we were over there, they sent planes, stripped-down planes, over to pick us up and bring us into Cherbourg. And which, by the way, was an interesting experience, landing on a landing mat for the first time. I figured that we had lost wheels or something, but it rolled out nicely. Yeah. And they were very glad to see us. They accepted us and took us right in. So,
why were they so glad to see you?
Because when we got there, they could go home. That was the thing. Yeah. There was quite a few people that had their 65 missions in, and some even had more than that. So they were glad to see us.
Were you about the first 3 placements the group had gotten?
I don't really know if we were either the first or the second series of replacements, but it was very, very close.
Okay, now, you went very briefly
1945, over Koblenz, Germany.
By this time, had we gotten the feeling that the war was won, it just had to quit?
In fact, yes, that was the general feeling, and they had already warned us the best thing to do was stay with the German prison camps, if you could, because it was so close to being over, and your life was in jeopardy if you were caught by civilians. So,
all right, now, give the detail of your actual first contact with the German captor then. What did you do? You bailed out?
yes,
Right.
went out through the rear waist, and the radio man and I both made delayed drops. And as we were coming down, I could notice the squad of soldiers moving in to the circle about where I was going to land. And when I landed, there was a man standing with a rifle pointed at me, probably from as far as from here to the camera away from me. So there was no chance for escape, there was nothing, and they were waiting for me down there.
When you jumped, did you have a 45?
No, I had failed to bring it with me. I left it at home that day, probably, which was a good idea.
Now these soldiers, did they seem particularly belligerent, or?
One was. In fact, there was one from the infantry that wanted to shoot me. The others were from the Air Force, or the German Luftwaffe, and they were very decent about it. In fact, the German Luftwaffe officer was the one who took over, and he was a lieutenant, and he took over and got rid of the infantry at that time. So we were immediately taken in with the Luftwaffe, and then from there on out it was just prison camps somewhere.
All right, the two of you were taken pretty well together?
No. In fact, I didn't even know that the radio man had gotten out of the plane for sure. And we didn't see each other until probably a month or so later in a prison camp.
All right, now did you go through interrogation?
Oh, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
What did the interrogation amount to?
Well, mainly they kept asking me what group I was from, what unit I was from, what we were bombing, what was happening, and everything else. And as they were asking me these questions, he would then explain to me that they knew what we were doing. He knew the group because of the tail markings. And I think there was 2 or 3 planes that were shot down that day. So they got the tail markings, and he explained that we were from that group. He knew the target was somewhere on one of the bridges over the Rhine at Koblenz. And he told me more than I knew in certain cases. So.
Did he know, for instance, your pilot's name, or?
No.
He knew where you came from and that you were from the 387?
Yes. The 387 Tiger Stripe marking was very distinctive, and the planes that had crashed there was enough evidence left that he knew that that's where it was from.
When were you interrogated? The day you were shot down, or?
No. That afternoon, there was another air raid come in, and they took us down in the basement in a school building. And that following morning, at about 3 o'clock, 2:45 in the morning, they rousted us out. Now, by us, I was the only airman, but there were 2 other infantrymen that they put down in there with me. I'm still not sure if they were plants or if they were actually American infantrymen. But they had been, according to them, they had been captured for quite some time and had been moving around Germany. We were brought from there to a small town a little distance away, and that was an infantry camp of some kind, infantry prison camp, where I spent the next day. The following night I was taken out and taken to Frankfurt, Germany, and it was during that time that I was interrogated.
This place where you interrogated, there was appearance that there were a lot of interrogations took place there?
Yes. Mm-hmm. It was just outside of Nuremberg. Not Nuremberg, it's just outside of Frankfurt somewhere.